Hello, Scorpio. Welcome to your special update here on Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. If you're watching this reading was meant to find you. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. Now, this is a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger. And I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I provide. And remember, Scorpio, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. We start with an 8 of Swords. Sometimes this is some self-sabotaging thoughts, right? Some self-defeating thoughts. This is sort of, we get tangled up, we get in this rumination thing, we get in this mental loop, right, that prevents us from really taking advantage of an opportunity, taking advantage of an idea, expressing an energy, being creative, doing something. It interrupts the flow of action. It interrupts the activity, right? It's too much thinking of the wrong kind. This is kind of a card of helplessness. You know, we feel that there's a problem or there's a challenge, but we don't know how to go about solving it, right? I feel like this is a tangle of wires, you know, that we really need to cut ourselves out of. And this could be a sort of a mental habit of self-doubt, of really not believing in ourselves, and maybe just not understanding or not being able to figure out which direction to go right now, okay? Could be some overthinking, overanalyzing. Let's take a look at some more cards. Let's put something else out on the table, yeah? We got a 3 of Cups. The abundance is what we're after, major abundance, right? And this is a card of kind of knowing what we want, right? And that maybe is the first step towards getting out of this mental loop, right? Is knowing what we want, being able to articulate it or identify what we really, truly, truly want, and maybe with the 3 of Swords, getting away from those things that we don't want, or lamenting, or the sorrow or the sadness from all the times that we didn't get what we want, right? Because sometimes the 3 of Swords, which is this kind of sorrow or disappointment or this as existential dread, prevents us also from moving forward, right? Because we kind of look at the world as a dark, scary place and we think there's a lot of risk, you know? If I'm pursuing my goals, if I'm going after this big thing, if I'm making this big change, if I'm going to do this thing, if I'm going to aspire, what if I fail? You know, there's a lot of worries here. There's a lot of this kind of, it's sort of like I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't sort of thing. This isn't allowing us to get anywhere either, okay? So this is kind of, this is the big old yes, and then the 3 of Swords, kind of a big old no, I'm not going to take the risk, right? We've got a Knight of Swords back here. Above you is there's the 5 of Swords, but we've got the Fool, yeah, look at that. That's exciting, because with all this looping, I mean, just look at this air energy. This is just, I don't like that. You know, it's dark, it's clouded, it's pessimistic, it's self-defeating, it's self-sabotaging. It's kind of saying, it's almost like this thing underneath everything in the subconscious realm. We don't believe in ourselves. And so then we're going to figure out every excuse we can not to do it. We're going to defeat our own ideas before we even get started. This is a mentality that needs to change. Well, look what we have. Then we've got the Fool. Now we've got this leap into the unknown. This is the moment that you've been waiting for, Scorpio. Major abundance. We're figuring out what is it that we really want, and we're making this decision to doggone do it, right? This is a family show. I'm trying really hard not to use any expletives, but I mean, this is a moment that really calls for a big, like, F yeah, you know. Having this Fool energy is We're releasing all the doubt. We're releasing all this pessimism, all this anxiety about the past, all of this worry about the future, all this self-defeating rumination, loops of mental habits, and we're just abandoning all of it, and we're just jumping. Right? You're discovering what you want in your life, what you want, this abundance. What is the Three of Cups for you? What is this abundance? What is this peak experience? What is that joy? Is it being, is it really becoming great at bowling, becoming a great at the guitar, drums, or being a rapper, or acting, right? Or being great at a particular kind of business, or a particular type of craft or art, or anything, right? What is it for you? What is it that you want to be great at? What is it that you can recognize in yourself that you have the potential to be great at? Yeah? Because this is a potential for joy and abundance, right? So you have to recognize in all of this crud, this is real crud, right? In all of that, you've got to ask yourself, okay, what could I really be great at? What do I have the potential in me to be great at? And then the fool has to jump into it feeling like you're already great at it. Okay, if you understand that you've got the potential to be great at something, and then all you got to do is jump into that and work hard, and you will be great at it. But it has to come from a belief first. And if we don't have that, then we're never getting, this is a big roadblock on our path. Okay, we've got to get out of that. If there's anything you would like me to pray over or meditate upon or send positive energy toward, please let me know. Put it down in the comment. I read all the comments, okay? So if you need anything, let me know. Yeah. With the rest of the cards, Path of the Serpent, here we go. Princess of Wands, yes. 6 of Cups, an 8 of Wands, and a 5 of Pentacles. Really, really good. Even the 5 of Pentacles is good because you know what? It's saying that we're changing. We're growing. We're busting the seams of our own lives. We're breaking through the crust. We're molting. We're shedding our skin because we're growing, and we're changing who we are. We're adapting. Right? If you have this idea that you're going to become great at something, whatever it is, you don't have to be the greatest. Maybe you're not trying to be the GOAT, right? You're just trying to get great at something, whatever it is. Maybe it's the job you already have. Maybe it's getting great at writing or poetry or a skill, a sport, a martial art, whatever it might be, carpentry, archery, whatever it is. We have to push ourselves to continue to grow in that direction. The first step is knowing what it is that you have the potential to be great at, assuming you already have that, the future's already written. You're already going to be great at it. Now all you got to do is go through the process of becoming great. And the 5 of Pentacles is really about that. It's about pushing ourselves beyond what we thought our limits were. And in some ways, we have these self-defeating thoughts. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not capable of that. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not, I don't have the skill. I don't have the experience. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too tall. I'm too short. This is the card that says, oh yeah? This is the card that's out there doing it and overcoming these self-defeating thoughts. That if I'm not fast enough, well, I guess I got to work towards getting faster. And this is we can see in this card the light is shining forth from underneath this card. And so it really is showing that by breaking down that rigid structure, the dark sort of crusty earth energy on top, we're breaking through all of that to let this light from underneath shine through. Okay? We're really dissolving all of this rigid earth energy to let the true light of yourself, true self, come through. Okay? And so this is the way that we have to work hard on ourselves to unleash our full potential and to become great at something. Now, how great you want to become is up to you. There's no limit here. You can be okay at it. You can be good at it. You can be great at it. You can be greater, or you can be the greatest, right? And then you can be the GOAT, right? Greatest of all time. But to have any kind of that, and you have to ask yourself, what level of greatness am I going to be content with? Some people, they just want to get good enough at something. Well, that's okay. Other people want to be the greatest. And that's up to you. But you're not going to get any of that if we stay stuck in this air energy where we do not believe in ourselves. And we're scared of trying. Right? There's going to be a risk involved in anything. There's always going to be a risk. There's a risk involved in not going after your dreams, just as there's a risk of going after them. Maybe we think going after our dreams is really going to cost us a lot. Well, it's going to cost you a lot to not go after them too. Let's select our mystery card, bonus card, confirmation card. I think you're right in the middle of this, right in the middle of all of this air energy, and you're trying to sort out what you want to do and how you want to do it. And really, it's kind of should you even do it? I think there are a lot of excuses, and there's a lot of self-defeating attitudes. And some of these may be coming from other people in your life. Okay, I'm not just saying that you don't believe in yourself, but I think that we're having a difficult time with the mentality and the mindset. Okay, now this mystery card, we're going to look at it at the end. If you have a prediction for it, put it in the comments. It's always a good idea to use our intuition, right? But let's look around the room, because we see that the Fool is really the center card. It is the axis mundi right now. This is the galactic center of your life. Is this going to be the dumbest thing you've ever done or the wisest thing you've ever done? Is it foolish to go, or is it foolish to not go? Is it a smart idea to jump in feet first into something, or is this going to be a really big mistake, right? And that's kind of what our air energy does too. It's kind of saying, this is a really, really big leap for you, a really big move, okay? And this is the moment of truth. Do you do it or not do it? Is it worth the risk? Is it not worth the risk? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe you're capable of becoming great at something? And if so, what is it that you feel that you can be great at? Sometimes the Eight of Wands in this position is kind of what we don't want. We don't want the anxiety of trying to figure out what we could be really great at. Okay? And this is part of the problem, because we get stuck in this anxiety and we end up spinning around in a circle. It's an 8, right? Just like the eight of swords. It's looping back in on itself, and we're not actually doing anything. We're not actually growing or changing. It's like the 8 of swords. We're doing a lot of thinking, but we're not really reaching any conclusions, right? It's just a loop. And the same thing with this creative energy, that we're considering these things, we're maybe dabbling, experimenting in all these other little things, but we're always sort of looping back around. It's just a cycle. It's a circle. And we're not actually making any sort of progress in any particular direction. This is our fear. This is our anxiety. What if I commit to the wrong things? What if I say, I want to be a great rapper, and then, a month into it, I realize I'm terrible at it and I don't want to do it anymore. Then what? Then I wasted all that time. Do I keep going? Do I turn and do something else? Do I then say, I want to be a great guitar player? In some ways, it doesn't really matter. In some ways, it's just, it's the ability for you to correctly self-assess now, which I believe is what you're trying to do at this time. Correctly assess what potential you have, what you want, and what you think you can be great at. What you feel you can be great at, and what that is going to look like for you. Maybe it is saying, right now I feel like I could be a really great, podcaster. Or I could really make some really great reaction videos on YouTube, it actually would be fun. I think somebody should do reaction videos where they react to the tarot readings. I haven't seen that yet, but a tarot reaction channel would be really cool. I don't have time to do it, so you can feel free to take that idea. But once we figure out what we have the potential to be great at, we do it. We do it, we do it, we do it. Even when we start getting this anxiety and we start thinking, well, maybe I should have picked something else, it doesn't really matter. Okay? It doesn't matter so much what you're doing, it matters how and why you're doing it. So by committing ourselves to something and jumping into something and trying our very best to do it and working toward becoming great at it, There will be days where you hate it. There will be days where it feels like torture, right? But you've committed to it, and you're going to make yourself great at this, okay? And I think the worst thing that we can do when we get to this point is to start thinking that, I would have a better experience doing something else. That maybe I should have done that, or I should have done that, or I should have done that. The will has to be one. The willpower has to be channeled in one direction for you to achieve anything worthwhile. If your will is dissipated, if your will is pulled in every different direction, and we have no actual focus on anything, nothing will be achieved. Just as with the thought process and the Eight of Swords, if we keep thinking round and round and round about the same things, right? We keep ruminating on the same details. We're not getting any, there's no new, there's nothing happening in that thought process, right? We're thinking the same old way about the same old things. There's nothing new. There's no growth there. There's no progress there, okay? So we have to get out of our comfort zones of thought and of behavior, and we have to pick something that we have to feel, like, because we pick something beforehand, let's say. I pick something that I feel I want to do. It's meaningful to me. It's going to bring me abundance. I feel like I can be great at it. This is what I'm going to do. And boom, we take the leap, right? We make the decision. We do it. Because when you're in the middle of it, that's not the time to ask yourself, do I really want to do it? You should have already decided. Because in the moment, what if it's a tough day? You're going to say, oh, I made a mistake. I didn't really want to do this. This isn't really what I want for my future. I don't really want to be great at this. And we'll go back to square one. You can't make those decisions when you're already in the moment. If it's a really good day and you're feeling really happy about it, be like, yeah, this was the right decision. This is what I want to do. There's no question about it. But then you have a bad day. The next day is going to be a challenging day. You're going to say, oh, I must have made a mistake. I got to go back. No. You decide beforehand, where you're sort of, in a way, you're a little bit unbiased, And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're biased already by the past, okay? The Three of Swords is, it's this underlying fear. The fear of, well, perhaps not succeeding. The fear of failure. The fear of fear itself. The fear of not living up to our potential, the fear of not becoming great at something. But what if we use this as a useful thing? What if we were able to find a way to use this to fuel what we do want? Well, for one thing, it's a 3 and a 3. We've got the threes. So there is a connection here. We know what we want. We know what we don't want. We use the fear as a motivator. Really comes down to the fear of death, right? Like Castaneda said, death is always a couple of feet behind you. And if we realize that, then it's kind of a matter of, I gotta pick something and I gotta go. And I gotta push myself as hard as I can to become good or great at it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even have to be one thing. It could take you down a whole rabbit hole. It's not really about the destination. It's not about reaching a point where you say, I'm great at rapping, or I'm great at golf. No, it's the process of becoming great that gives you the power then to do kind of what the Eight of Wands is showing, a lot of different things. To take your will in many different directions, because now you have the power to direct that. Now you can go in any point on the compass, because you know how to focus your will and get it done and push yourself in that direction. So it's the process of becoming great at something, of challenging yourself, of learning, of growing, of getting good at it. Not that final state of, okay, now I'm a good golfer, But it's all the skills and the talents and the virtues that you learn pushing yourself there. And I think if we use our fears, this could be the fear of just being normal, the fear of just like being like everybody else, the fear of being so scared that we're not going to do something. Let's use this. Let's realize that life is short. That if there is even a little inkling of potential there, it's worth doing it. if there's even just a little bit of hope in there, a little bit of light, it's worth pursuing it. Okay? Now, I think in the background with our Knight of Swords, the Knights are typically cards that look at the future. Okay, so the Knight of Swords is trying to look at the future and see a way forward, trying to see a path from beginning to end, point A all the way to point B, and everything in between, and trying to figure out step by step. This is the one who's at home trying to print out the MapQuest directions, it gets out the big paper maps you'd get at the gas station, and trying to draw on Sharpie all the lines, all the interchanges, every step of the way, right? From beginning to end. And I think you're running into problems there. I think that's where we're getting some of our blockage here. We're anticipating certain obstacles, and we're not able to push ourselves mentally past those obstacles. Okay? And this is really even before we get to the fire energy at all. I think this is before we've even taken the leap and started really going after something. We're having a difficult time even getting started. Okay? So there's only a certain distance that the planning can take you. Eventually we have to kind of jump into something and just realize that the Fool is going to adapt in real time to the challenges that are that they're confronted with. Okay, so this is an obstacle we have just getting started, because the more we think about it, trying to see how things are going to play out, we run into this loop of this Eight of Swords where we just start feeling kind of helpless. We feel like no matter what scenario I run through, and we see this in movies all the time, right? It reminds me like the plot of a Star Trek movie or a Star Trek episode, where we run through all these scenarios. The computer's running through all these scenarios. Every scenario we run through ends in disaster. Sometimes that's how we think about life, right? Every way we think about this, every scenario, every run, right, ends in disaster. And then so that's our Eight of Swords. We can't think of a way through this. Let's just stop thinking. Because what we're doing is we're sabotaging ourselves. We don't realize it, but there's something unconscious in us it's sort of like the computer system that's running all these scenarios is a little biased towards a negative outcome. And so, yeah, of course, you tell the computer, run through all the different scenarios. How do we get out of this situation? How do I become great at something? And the computer, because it has this hidden bias, is always going to, every run it takes, and it's, no, disaster, 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 right? It reminds me of a bad movie. It's because we have this underlying unconscious bias towards a negative outcome, towards a pessimism, towards a fear or a belief in ourselves. And this is what we've got to change. I like the Five of Swords up at the top because at least this is saying we're kind of changing the way we think. We're realizing that we tend toward self-defeat. We tend toward speaking of ourselves in a negative way that's going to discourage us from doing the big thing, from trying to become great at something. It's easier, it's safer just to be normal, just to be like everybody else. Why can't I just be happy with a normal, mediocre, average life, right? That's what everybody else around me is doing. Why can't I just do that, And so we're starting to look at things in a different way and think, okay, there's something in us that wants to come out. There's something in you that you can be very, very good at, if not the greatest at this thing that you do, right? We have to change the way we think. It's all about mentality here. And the Fool, I think, is the one that's sort of abandoning all of the mentality and just saying, you know what, I've recognized this thing. I can identify what I want to do. And maybe it's a risk. Well, of course it's a risk. Maybe that is the thing that is what you're meant to do on this earth. Maybe not. Maybe you're not so certain of it. At this point, it's better to just take the leap and start pushing yourself and developing those skills and virtues that you need. Whatever your talent is, whatever you're meant to do on this earth, you may not have a very clear picture of what that is or how to do it. The Fool is saying, we just got to start somewhere. Let's leap into it now. And the plans will change as we grow and develop our discipline, develop our willpower, develop our virtues. We'll also grow in wisdom. And maybe we'll say, oh, hey, it wasn't golf that I was meant to do. I'm meant to, I feel as if my calling is somewhere else, and I'm meant to be great doing something else that's sort of down that rabbit hole a little bit. And so we're able to continually adapt and change and shift and grow and expand and evolve, right? And I think it's important that we allow ourselves that flexibility. We give ourselves permission. We give ourselves that freedom. That's the Fool energy. Just because you're jumping into this, I'm going to try to be the greatest golfer I can be, And then maybe through the skills and the virtues and stuff that we learn of going through that process and working hard at becoming good at something like that, we realize that, oh, you know what? Golf's not really for me. But we've already learned all those skills. It wasn't a waste of time. We've already learned all those very valuable lessons, problem solving, and all those virtues, patience and willpower. And we can now take that into any other direction and work on achieving greatness there. We're giving ourselves the freedom, right, to fail, to fail, to try again, or to pivot, to adjust, but to keep going, right? To keep discovering and keep coming closer and closer and closer to the awareness of what our true potential, what our true calling is. No matter what direction it takes us, we're learning the right skills along the way that are always going to be useful in any situation, any scenario, right? Now, over here with our Princess of Wands. And also, if you haven't subbed to the channel yet, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps me out. I appreciate that. The Princess of Wands is this fiery energy that is very impulsive, and it's sort of going off of our Fool card. The Fool is just leaping in, and the Princess of Wands doesn't really need much of a direction. Just kind of needs something to do. Needs a little bit of fire, a little bit of motivation, and it's there. It's immersed in something, and it's sort of like the Fool. But the Fool doesn't have any direction. The Fool doesn't have really anything. It's kind of a zero. The Fool is whatever you're going to feed it, But the Princess of Wands now has a little bit of intention, a little bit of willpower. It is very impulsive. But to me, it feels like this is really us getting started. We're getting involved in something. We're jazzed up about it. We can see that, yeah, hey, I could be great at this. And we're ready to go. We're getting everything we need. We're starting to, as soon as we wake up, we start thinking about it. We start doing it. We get fired up, right? And this is really where it all starts. This is when we finally, we've gotten out of the thinking and planning phase. Because look, this is all air energy. This is a lot of air. We got to be real careful with this. Because all this air energy, nothing actually gets grounded. Nothing actually starts happening in the physical world. Luckily for us, the Princess of Wands is a Earth of Fire card. Right? So it's saying that the first thing we got to do is something, anything. Right? We're jumping into it, and it's kind of saying we may not know where we're going or how to get there, but we got to start somewhere. And the best thing to do is to just start moving. We'll figure it out as we go, but if we're still sitting down thinking about it, we're not getting any closer. At least we're up and we're moving now, right? Now, the Six of Cups in the environment is what I really, really like. It's a card of pleasure. It's a card of community. It's a card of really wonderful relationships. Okay, very supportive relationships. But it could also be a card of almost too much comfort, right? It's kind of like if you, when you have a bad day or you fail at something and, your mom's there to welcome you or your dad's there to welcome you, to give you that big hug when you fail and say, it's okay. Come on, let's go have some ice cream. Let's go watch TV. Let's go relax. Let's forget about that, And that's kind of like, in a way, it feels good. In a way, it's very consoling, right? But that consolation is really killing our ambition here, On the other hand, we don't want a parent that just says, why are you crying? Get back out there and fight, Maybe we do. Maybe that's what we need, right? But what we want is someone that's going to just give us the big hug and say, oh, you tried. It didn't work out. Let's go back to our normal life, right? And it's kind of like sometimes we want to go out and do something and we want to fail just so we can say, hey, I tried, and it didn't work. So now I have a real concrete reason. I have some data. I have some evidence that says I'm not great at this. I'm just going to live a normal life, that I'm a mediocre person and living a mediocre life is okay. So sometimes this is a little too much comfort, a little too much pleasure. And sometimes we can satisfy ourselves by just trying, failing at something and saying, okay, it wasn't for me. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to go back to doing what I always do. And I've done that before, right? I've auditioned for bands as a drummer and they say, yeah, you can, we want you to play in our band. And then I would just kind of, I would screw it off. I would ignore it. I would just, I wouldn't call them back. I would just, I'd ignore their phone calls, and I just wouldn't do it out of this fear, out of this. I say, well, you know what? I tried. It wasn't for me. Or, and I've tried out for bands too, where it was like, hey, it's not a good fit. And then I'd go home and I'd be like, well, you know what? I tried, and I guess it's just not. I'm not meant to be good at this. This isn't meant for me. I'm not meant to be great at it, right? And I'll console myself in thinking, well, you know what? I'm proud of myself because I tried and I failed, but at least now I know that I suck, And then I just go back to doing what I was doing, which was pretty much nothing with my life at the time, early 20s, mid 20s. But I think that we sometimes look for this kind of comfort in the environment, in other people. And I think other people, that they don't want us to suffer. They don't want us to feel bad. If my daughter comes in and says, I fell off my bike and I don't know how to ride it, I'm terrible at it, I want to give her a hug. I want to console her and say, no, you're good at it. You're fine. It's okay. I love you and everything's going to be fine. But get back out there and get back on the bike. And I try to do that with my daughter because she does fall off her bike and skin her knees and she's crying and that breaks my heart, right? And we hug and we talk about it and she calms down and I say, okay, you ready to go back out there? And she'll say, yeah. And we'll go back out there. Like, hey, now what did you do last time that made you fall down? Well, usually for her is that she'll turn her head to look at something. And wherever you turn your head, that's where the bike's going to go, And that's what she's learning. She's learning that wherever you put your eyes, that's where your body's going to go. That's where your bicycle's going to go. And so that's the lesson to be learned. And so sometimes falling down is necessary, but only if we get up and we say, okay, why did I fall down? Okay, it's because my shoelaces are tied together. Oh, it's okay because I wasn't looking where I was going. I was daydreaming. I was, I wasn't paying attention or whatever it was. And we make sure that we go back to that same path, that same challenge, that same activity, and we do it in a way that's really going to give us the satisfaction, a real Six of Cups, right? When we make the connection and we experience the joy of overcoming a challenge, this is success after disappointment, after sadness, after sorrow, right? A Six of Cups. It's a triumph. It's saying, I did it. I solved the problem. I tried once and I failed, but instead of just going home and quitting, I recovered. I, pulled myself together and I went back to it. And I must have learned something because now I was able to get across. I was able to do it. And it feels so freaking good, It feels amazing. We're not going to get that feeling unless we first get a 5, unless we first have the worry, the stress, the challenge, the disappointment, and the failure, and we got to fall down sometimes so that we can have the triumph of going back to the obstacle and overcoming it. Now, excuse me. The Eight of Wands here, when we get those kinds of challenges, we start to think that, well, maybe I'm meant for something else. If like my daughter would come in and say, oh, yeah, you fell off your bike and you hurt yourself. That's like, you know what? That's an evil bike. Let's not go back out there, right? Let's not touch that bike again. Here, let's do something else. And then we'll, try another maybe an easier thing. Maybe we'll try something totally different, but maybe we'll have the same experience. Maybe we'll go, so not a bike, okay, let's do a tricycle, right? Or let's do a skateboard or a scooter or something, And eventually there'll be the same challenge in the scooter or the four-wheeler, the ATV or something. We get stuck in the mud, and it's just like, well, here's another challenge, another problem. So the grass isn't always greener on the other side, Quitting one thing and taking up something else, we're sort of wasting time. We're sort of like literally spinning our wheels, And so the idea here is that we don't change activities the first time we meet with a challenge and we say, oh, it must not be meant for me. Maybe not even the second time or the 100th time. We've already committed to this. We've already taken the leap into this. We're trying to develop the skills and the virtues to overcome the challenge. We got to keep confronting that challenge. And once we get over the hump, then maybe we can decide, okay, does this feel good? I want to keep doing it. Or is it just like, all right, I know this isn't meant for me. I'm going to try something else. But we don't quit until we at least overcome this challenge. And really, ideally, we would see this thing through to the end because we would have already decided beforehand that this is what I want to get great at. The worst thing we could do is to say, okay, I want to be great at this thing. And we do it for a little while and we say, no, never mind. I want to be great at this thing. And we do it for a little while and we say, no. And then we do that for our entire lives. We end up with a very mediocre life. That's one problem with the Princess of Wands, because the Princess of Wands likes that rush of starting the new thing, but needs the longevity, needs the perseverance to see it through to the greatness, right? Or to see it through at least to a point where we can honestly say, okay, it's time for me to pivot or shift a little bit. Okay? But otherwise, we're not making any progress, and we're certainly not developing any skills or talents or virtues to help us on our path, right? The only way that we get that sort of acquisition of skill or virtue is by the success, the joy, the feeling of overcoming that challenge. But if we get to the challenge and we fail, knocks us on our butt, and we say, oh, okay, I'm going to go do something else, we're not growing, we're not achieving anything. So we have to at least overcome that challenge. And then maybe, if you must, we can decide on a different course of action. But if we find a challenge, it's like, can't walk away until you overcome it. You can't, you can't sit down and rest. You can't quit. You have to face that challenge and overcome it. Otherwise, we keep like backsliding, And that's part of our Five of Pentacles. We're only as good as our current challenge. Okay, so it's always. It's kind of like that's the beginning. We confront the challenge. We keep approaching it until we overcome it. Okay? And then, again, if you must, at that point, you have the ability to say, am I going to keep going or am I going to pivot? But if you pivot when that challenge is still right there in front of you, that's quitting. Okay? When you overcome the challenge, you get to the other side, then if you choose to pivot, it's not quitting, you see. Well, let's look at our mystery card. I want some more earth energy, I think, right? I want to see either a 6 of Pentacles or a 9, maybe a 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups. If you have a prediction, please put it in the comments down below. Let's see. 8 of Pentacles, yeah, okay. This is the repetition. This is continuing to work on something and refine something that we're going to keep doing this again and again and again, over and over and over again, because that's developing in us the skills, talents, and virtues, patience for one thing, tenacity, willpower, focus, determination, that we're going to keep approaching this obstacle until we figure out how to succeed. Okay? And sometimes this is about just, you got to just keep going at it again and again and again. Sometimes this is about a different strategy, a different technique. Sometimes we have to learn a different skill or look at it from a different way. we have to keep approaching it until we overcome it. And that's how it's through that repetition of obstacle and triumph, obstacle and triumph, and then that's how we grow. And the Eight of Pentacles is all about that growth. It's that organic growth. This is the growth and development of those skills and virtues that are going to apply to anything that you do in life, to become great at anything. These are the skills of becoming great. Yeah. I think this is really important. And I think that this is major abundance for you. And this is the moment you've been waiting for. That moment where you just leap in and you're ready for all the challenges. You're done thinking about it. You're done planning it. You're ready to jump in and do it. This is that turning point. Okay? And we know it's going to be, there's organic growth here. Some days it's going to be slower. Some days it's going to seem a lot faster. There's always going to be challenges to face, and it's going to be routine. It's going to be hard work day after day, but this is what sets you apart from everybody else. This is what makes you great. The fool is the anomaly, right? The fool is the one that is not like everybody else. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to do an extended reading. Okay, we're going to consult the I Ching, we're going to cast a hexagram, we're going to do some other oracle cards. I hope you will join us by clicking on the link in the corner. There's also a link down below, new readings for Scorpio, usually Wednesdays and Saturdays. I feel like you needed this special update right now because I feel like this is the moment where you're jumping in. Okay? Be sure to watch both of your readings otherwise. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Leave a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you, and we're all in this together.